everybody, Michael Reno Harrell here for Mostly Acoustic with my good buddy Jack Lawrence. And today we're going to have fun. We're going to look at some of Jack's great instruments here. What's this one you got here, Jack?
This is my first guitar.
Not a bad first guitar.
I found it under my parents' bed when I was about 4 years old. And so when I was around 10 and started getting interested in playing, this is the one that I picked up. It's a 1946 0021.
So it's Brazilian rosewood.
Brazilian rosewood.
Sitka top.
Sitka top, herringbone stripped down the back.
Right.
And this being, let's see, this was, I'm trying to remember exactly, but I believe it was stamped in September of 1946 and cleared inspection sometime, I think in February of 1947. So it's, this model would generally have herringbone around the sound hole rosette as well, but this being a late 46 and a transition instrument, it's got the 47 style rosette around the sound hole.
A lot of people think when they hear a year on a guitar that it's like a car, that they change models every year at the first of the year. They didn't care about when the year started. They just wandered along and went, let's do that.
Yeah, or let's use up something that...
Gibson was notorious for that.
Oh, yeah, well, they call them floor sweeping.
Yeah.
Sweeping models, you know, where they just gathered up whatever was laying around and built an instrument out of it.
Sure. Rosewood bridge and fretboard.
Actually, no.
Not
no,
rosewood?
it's ebony.
Oh, it's ebony. It's just It's just not pure black like the D28 would have had.
Yeah. Well, this guitar went back to Martin in the early '60s, and they didn't set necks back in those days. What they would do is they'd plane the fretboard to compensate for the neck set. And so once they'd plane the board, of course, you know, there's very little deep black ebony.
Right.
Almost everything you see in instruments are, you know, the ebony is dyed.
Yeah.
And so once this fretboard got planed down, you can see
they just planed it
gray
down
streaks in it.
to the grain. Yeah. Okay.
So
Great guitar.
got the original Waverly, what they call a Yoda head tuners.
Right. I have a set of those at home. If you ever run out, you need another set.
So
But that's a great one.
other than the frets and the
Now, who
bridge
put all
and
this playwear on it? Is that when you got it?
Well,
like that, or?
no. What happened was there was a little bit of playwear on it. My dad didn't play it very much. My mother had a cousin who was in the military, and once in a while he would come down to visit and he would play it. So he put some playwear on it. And after I'd left home, you know, I wasn't using this guitar anymore. I'd gone on to dreadnought guitars because playing in bluegrass bands, you know, you got to have that big guitar. And so I left this one at home, and my younger brother is probably the one who put most of this playwear on it while I was not looking.
Thanks, brother. Okay, let's see what else we got. This is a Jim Merrill guitar.
It's a Jim Merrill guitar.
And it's a special one.
Well, it's special to me. This is serial number, let's see, I have to look, I'm not sure, but 0002.
So that's kind of early.
See you, it's kind of early. In 2000, at Merrill Fest, I met Jim Merrill and his partner at the time, Chuck Nimmo. And they had two guitars on display out in the merchandise tent, just getting their company started.
Right.
And you know, I don't know if they were looking for Doc and they got me, but you know, because hey, I've had all kinds of guitar builders bring me stuff, you know, with the ultimate goal of getting it in Doc's hands.
Right.
But actually, these guys approached me, never mentioned Doc. They approached me and wanted me to play their guitars. And so I arranged for a room backstage at Merrill Fest where it was nice and quiet, and played their guitars and liked the sound of both. There was this one, and which is a Brazilian rosewood, very
Beautiful.
nice Brazilian rosewood, like you don't see much anymore.
Turn it so we can see this. I love this part up here. Yeah.
And if you can see that, but yeah, I mean it's matched beautifully. But anyway, I finished playing their guitars, and they said, "Well, is there, either of these guitars? Would either of these guitars be something you could use?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but I don't need I don't need another guitar, really. But yeah." And I was figuring, they were just getting feedback, and he said, "Well, no, we'd like for you to take one of these guitars." And I was going to take the mahogany guitar, because I'd been playing mostly mahogany guitars at that point. And yeah, they kind of frowned when I said, "Well, I'll take the mahogany guitar," because this was their showpiece at that time. And so they said, "Well, we really would rather you take the Brazilian guitar." And I said, "Well, okay."
Okay.
And so, like I said, I had plenty of other guitars, and I wanted to help them out as much as I could, because I thought they were nice guitars. But at the same time, look here. I mean,
I know.
these great guitars. So I talked to him a little further, and we came to a deal where they would put full-page ads in the trade magazines with me holding this guitar and an endorsement. So
I remember that.
So it was, it was best for them. I mean, they needed to get their name out there. It didn't hurt to have my face in the, for me to have my face in the trades as well. And so they were going to have to do an ad campaign anyway.
Right.
So it all worked out. And this is the guitar that came from it. It's
a great guitar.
It's really strong.
Yeah, it is.
It's really strong.
All his guitars that I've been around have been really strong. He figured it out, didn't he?
Yeah. I took it back to him after a few years to have the neck reset and the fret job done. And at that point, he insisted on scalping the braces a little more. I was not too thrilled with that prospect, but he insisted. And I'll be honest, I can't tell if it did a whole lot for the guitar that, after
it didn't
we
hurt
trimmed it. It didn't hurt it, because it sounded great to begin with. And so he scalloped the braces in it a little more.
This one's kind of unique. It's got a bigger logo than the later ones.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly when he changed that, but yeah, the logo is larger on here, and it's got some squirrely little things. If you look at how the tuning machines are drilled.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll stick it up to the camera here, but they're not exactly.
Right.
Not exactly
kind of
straight.
like some of the Lord mandolins.
Uh-huh.
Same thing. They're little off.
Yeah.
Handmade.
So little things like that. But this guitar along with a guitar I don't have out here, but this guitar along with a 98 D18 VM are my main gig guitars, because they have pickups in them, and and I almost always have to plug in whether I want to or not.
Yep. Well, everybody else says you have to. That's the deal. Well, it's a great guitar. Let's move along and see what else we got to look at. This is neat. I'm pretty familiar with this guitar. This is like a time capsule guitar. This thing is amazing.
It's one. Excuse me. It's one of my favorite guitars.
Yeah, one of my favorite guitars. So 1953?
1953, same as me.
Yep.
This was stamped, I think, sometime in September of 1953 and passed inspection about 2 months later or something like that.
Brazilian rosewood, of course.
Brazilian rosewood, of course.
And the waffle back tuners.
The original
yeah.
Clouson.
Yeah. I had a 50 that had those, during that period. That's what they were using. The top on this guitar, there's a lot of talk about that. It's such an amazing sounding guitar.
It is that. It has this fundamental mid-range that really cuts through, and so it mics really well. I don't have pickups in this guitar, but I used this on Peter Owen's latest CD,
Right.
and it records like a champ.
You can't say that about all D28s.
No, you can't. Sometimes they're boomy. I have looked inside this one. In the mid 40s, 1945, they stopped at, 44 actually, but for the production year of 1945, they did not scallop the braces in those guitars. They tapered them. The braces were tapered, both the X brace and the tone bars.
Right.
And as the 40s wore on, they began being tapered less and less. Now, I've looked inside this guitar, and what I've come to find out, it's tapered. The braces in this guitar are tapered, and by 53, they pretty much stopped doing it, and everything was straight. But somebody doing this particular top figured it would sound the best, because this guitar is tapered not quite as heavily as a 45 or 46 D28 would be, but tapered nonetheless. And I think that's one of the reasons this one is special. And the top, they're two different. They've been called mystery tops.
Right.
And there's no real record at Martin as to what they were actually using. There's anecdotal evidence. Dana Bourgeois did an interview with C.F. IV, and he remembered in 1952 he bought some surplus Engelmann spruce from the government. And a lot of people argue it's red spruce, but there's no, in Martin's records, they specify their spruce is either east or west, west being Sitka.
Right.
East or west. Well, you can't look at an Engelmann top and tell any difference just from an Adirondack top.
Right.
Red spruce top, by just looking at it. So I wonder if, one of the things I wonder is if Martin's guys looked at this wood and said, well, that's definitely not Sitka, so it's, it's not Western, so it's got to be Eastern.
Yeah.
But there's no records of exactly.
Where did Engelmann come from?
Well, actually, it is a west.
That's what I'm.
A Western Mountains spruce.
Washington or somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but anyway, John Arnold and I have speculated on this a bit, and he seems to think Engelmann.
Well, he knows red spruce for sure. He's cut enough of it, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right.
So
well, it's a great guitar. Hit us one big lick on it, and we'll move on. Yeah, boy.
Oh, it's real clean.
Yeah.
Bottom
tight.
end.
Nice. All right. Let's see what else we got. This is a great looking top on this guitar. Look at that grain.
Yeah, it's one of the few pieces of red spruce you'll see with bear claw.
Yeah. I don't know if
Yeah.
the camera's picking that up, but it's absolutely
It's hard
gorgeous.
to pick up
And
just in the light.
the grain it widens out beautifully toward the edges and nice and tight in the center. Beautiful. And this says Jack Lawrence on it.
It does. I think it was in 2005. I ran into a guy with a company called My Favorite Guitars from Naples, Florida, and we were talking, and a little later on we decided we'd try to do a custom D28.
Right.
And Martin was on board with that, of course. So I put together some specs. They wouldn't do everything I wanted, but as far as the specifications are concerned, but I put the specs together for this guitar, and we did 20 of them. And of the 5 or 6 of them I've seen, they've been really consistent guitars.
Mother of Pearl Martin.
That's the only
Logo.
little bit of bling that I got on there was
Snowflake inlays.
yeah,
Herringbone trim.
herringbone trim.
And of course rosewood and
Yeah,
red spruce.
rosewood and red
Ebony
spruce.
bridge and fingerboard.
Right. Now, what makes this different is it's a forward brace guitar, but
Which
it
Martin
has,
quit doing.
which Martin quit doing until they, until I guess the
38, early 38, the last year or along in there somewhere.
yeah, somewhere in there they moved it back,
Right.
moved the X back. I'm not sure exactly. This is about an inch from the edge of the sound hole.
Yeah.
But all those forward brace guitars, or most of them, with the exception of a few that kind of slipped through that were transition instruments, most of those guitars had a 1 3/4 inch neck, and the bridge spacing was wider. Mm-hmm. This guitar, I wanted a full thickness neck. In fact, this neck is very much like the 53, my 53 D28, and that's what I was looking for, something with a pretty good handful. Mm-hmm. And that's a neck they didn't offer. So there's probably a little variance. I haven't had enough of them in one place to measure them. There's probably a little bit of variance because they weren't going to reset their CNC machines
Right.
for 20 guitars. So these guitars were all the necks were hand done. Because it's not V'd and it's not a low oval. It's a big, chunky C-shaped neck like they did in the 50s.
Yeah.
And so it's got a 50s bridge spacing and 50s style neck, basically on a 30 style brace pattern.
Yeah.
And
Bone nut and saddle.
bone nut and saddle.
Are these Waverleys?
These are Waverleys.
Yeah. So
Standard equipment.
You got that. That's great.
So yeah, I was pleased that finally in I guess August of 2006 they had 2 of these done, and so I went to the factory and they'd already labeled this one number 1. I says, well, what about like the other one better? They said, well, we'll swap the labels out, but we think you're going to pick this one.
And you did.
And I did, yeah. It had just a little bit extra something that the other guitar didn't have. I'm not sure what it was, but.
And it was born in Bethlehem.
Yes, it was.
The Jack Lawrence D28. What else we got?
This one's not too shabby either.
No, there's nothing shabby about this one. This one's the real deal. Tell us what this one is.
Well, this is a 1940 D28.
A genuine pre-war herringbone.
With the original Grover G11 tuners. I think they used these
39, part of 39?
39 through about 1940. I've never seen, in fact, on the Guitar Forum, right now there's a thread about these particular tuners that are trying to figure out exactly how long they used them. I always heard mid 39 through 1940.
My herringbone.
And I've never seen a set of these tuners on anything after 1941.
No, my herringbone was it was 36 serial numbers into 1940, and it had the covers. You remember that? We were the only two people I knew with the covers. Hard to find.
Yeah. This guitar I got from a fellow named Brand Dillard at Picker Supply. And
How long have you had this guitar?
a
A long time, I know.
I think I got it in 1996.
Yeah.
I think is right. And it's a player, you know. A couple of different guys have done restoration work on this guitar. One guy before I got it, a guy named David Musselwhite,
Famous guy.
who of course worked for Martin for years.
Yeah.
And he's still highly recommended restorer of these old guitars because he knows what's right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't matter to me, but the neck on this guitar has been shaved down. It's a little thinner, just a hair narrower, not terrible in width, but it's really been shaved down. Feels like almost like a Telecaster neck, but I have no problem with it. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who say, well, I can't play a guitar unless it has 1 11/16, or it's got to be 1 1/4. I don't care.
If it plays, it plays, right?
I don't care. I'm looking for the sound. And, there's nothing wrong with the way this guitar plays. It just feels different than my others. And I can adapt to that in just a few seconds.
Sure.
There
are very few 80-year-old herringbone Martin guitars that something hadn't been done to.
Oh,
that's think of the number of people they've probably been through over the years.
Yeah.
And the way they've been treated.
Yeah, well, this guitar, I wish I had the book, but Brand Dillard had a little portfolio with pictures before and after of the restoration on this guitar. So it's a brilliant repro bridge, and the bridge plate inside is also changed out. So I mean, the guitar had some issues,
Well,
and all that stuff, as far as I'm concerned, is wear and tear and stuff that happens to old guitars.
Bridges and bridge plates are like wiper blades on a car. They're only going to last so long. But it doesn't, that's the thing. Tuners wear out, bridges come loose, bridge plates wear out from all those ball end strings beaten against them over the years. Frets are changed, but the guitar is still the guitar.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
And so, like I said, I can play this guitar with no problem, and that's why I think a lot of players should think more about the way the instrument sounds rather than this minutia that really doesn't matter that much.
It all comes down to
I mean, I can see if you have a physical problem playing an instrument, then you might want to look somewhere else. But I mean, I hate to be crass, but they say, well, I can't play it unless it's a 1 3/4, or I can't play it unless it's 1 11/16. Just split that sentence in half and say I can't play. That's kind of a nasty way to put it, but come on, guys.
Yeah.
Really. People switch from guitar to a mandolin, or switch from guitar to a banjo, and that's a much narrower neck.
It certainly is.
So there's some parts of that I don't quite get, but I fully knew about the neck and all the stuff had been done to this guitar before I even saw it.
Yeah.
All it took was 5 minutes with it and playing it, and I had the checkbook out.
Yep. Well, that's a great old guitar. Show them the back of it. Just look at that good straight grain.
Oh yeah, I mean it's
Brazilian.
You know, amazingly enough, no cracks in the body.
It's amazing.
Of this guitar anywhere.
Yeah, amazing.
But lots of dings and scrapes. And this area here, the guy that owned it, I guess originally, was in some sort of square dance band or something. So he had a little something painted
Oh yeah.
on it right here. And so rather than strip it and overspray it, what Dave Musselwhite did was he just used just enough solvent to get that paint off, and what little was left of the lacquer, he just kind of rubbed it into the wood.
It's just part of the story of that guitar.
Yeah, and by doing that, I mean, there's not a whole lot of, there's just a little bit of difference in shininess from, but the colors.
Yeah, the color's still there. Yeah,
the color's still there. So
great.
And also the top on this guitar is not cut anywhere close to on the quarter. If you look at the edge of the sound hole, I mean it's angled pretty good, and you can tell that by
looking at the center seam.
Looking at the center seam here, So, none of that stuff matters to me. This is what matters to me.
Matters to me? That's what matters to me. Next step, the one we've been waiting for. Now this guitar has a little history to it. Now what year is this guitar? This is
1945. 1945 D18. And it has seen some hard times. You notice it's got a terrifically oversized bridge on it. And that's because underneath that bridge is a big old spruce patch. Because there was a hole I could stick my fingers through.
Yeah, you told me when you got this guitar that it had the bridge off and on it so many times that the bridge was glued directly to the bridge plate.
Yeah.
And you fixed that.
I fixed that. This is the 1945 D18 that Doc Watson used on his early Vanguard records.
Right. This is the one we all grew up on.
This is the one that I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
And it's on all the great records too. The Strictly Instrumental with Flatt and Scruggs. Yep. Doc Watson in Nashville, good deal. It's on
Roger Sprung.
It's on Roger Sprung's Progressive Bluegrass albums. Let's see. The On Stage, Doc Watson On Stage, the one's got the cover of him playing a Gallagher on it.
Right.
Okay, well, Merle's holding this guitar in that picture.
Right.
But on the album, Doc is actually playing this guitar.
And Merle was playing?
And Merle was playing, I don't know what he was playing.
Whatever he was playing.
Whatever he was playing. I mean, I know he had a J45 that he played for a while.
Now, Doc got this guitar in New York, right?
He did. He got it from a fellow named Mark Silber, who I had the pleasure of meeting. He's an old friend of David Grisman's and lives out in Berkeley now.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in a while.
From New York.
Yeah. But Doc didn't own an acoustic guitar.
Right. He'd been
For
playing
the first several years of his career. He'd borrowed guitars. He borrowed a 37 D18 from a guy named Joe Cox. And that's the guitar that's on the picture on his first album cover, his first solo record.
Okay.
That's the Joe Cox D18 that Doc always wanted to buy and he would never sell. Doc also borrowed, I've seen him with a Southern Jumbo.
Yep.
I've seen him with J45.
In the early days, I saw him with those guitars too.
So he didn't own one until he bought this one from Mark Silber in New York.
Do you know what year that would have been?
I'm thinking late '62, early '63.
Yeah. When Ralph Rensler came to the Union Grove Fiddlers Convention, looking for Tom Ashley, he found Doc Watson, and and that was the beginning of a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
A lot. But you know, Doc used this up until he got the Gallagher, which I guess was in around late '69, early '70.
Yeah. So this guitar, what happened to it then? It just stayed in Doc's basement, huh?
It stayed in his music room. I moved from house to house. You know, I had seen it at his old house before he moved into the house where he died. I had seen it there, and but never got to take a real good close look at it. And so after Merle died, I would go up at Christmas time because we always played at the Down Home in Johnson City, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go up early and pick up Doc
For your annual Christmas show.
for our annual Christmas show, and then I'd drive him home afterwards and stay the night. And so I found this guitar behind his he had a whole rack of amplifiers and audio equipment on this big rack against the wall, and behind it I saw this guitar sitting behind,
Just leaning against
just
the wall?
leaning against the wall. And so I pulled it out, and it had like an inch of dust on it. And I dusted it off, and I saw that the bridge was about to fly completely off of it and had about 3 strings on it. And so I plucked those strings, three strings or so, and I blew the dust off of it. And about the time I took a big whiff at the sound hole, Doc Watson appeared in the door and said, "What in the world are you doing?"
What are you doing over there sniffing?
And so, I said, well, just looking at this old guitar, I think it's got some music left in it. You ought to get it fixed. He said, oh, no, that's completely worn out.
Wore it out.
Wore it out completely. It's got nothing left in it. So I took that guitar to Africa. I took that guitar to Europe. I took that guitar, that guitar flew out of the case and skidded down the road after a car accident. So I killed that guitar. And I said, well, I don't know. I think maybe you should fix it up. And he said, well, maybe one of these days I'll give that to you. And
maybe one of these
maybe
days.
one of these days. And so that became a pattern after a number of years,
Christmas show,
Christmas
go back
show.
to Doc's.
Pick up the guitar, dust it off, pluck on the string, sniff the sound hole, and Doc says, maybe one of these days I'll give it to you. That went on for 5 or 6 years. And so so finally we did this Christmas show at the Down Home, and I drove back after the show with one eye closed because it was our Christmas party after all.
It was, yes. They were sort of infamous.
And so anyway, we get up at Doc's house and go downstairs, get a cup of coffee, go downstairs, pick up the guitar, dust it off, pluck on the string, sniff the sound hole, and Doc said, just take it. Hell, just take it with you. You're not going to be able to do anything with it, but if you want it, you can have it. Just take the Grover Rotomatic tuning machines off.
He wanted those back.
He wanted to keep those. And so I said,
Gladly.
I said, give me a screwdriver and a wrench.
Yes, sir.
So he brought me a screwdriver and a wrench, and I took those things off. And
Filled the holes and put waffle backs on it.
and
It's had a bunch of different tuners on it over the years.
well, after the originals, I got no idea.
Yeah.
These aren't really Clousons. These are Japanese.
I've
I
got a
don't
set of
even
those,
know-
yeah.
But they have the same ferrule
Right.
that screws through as the Grover does, so I didn't have to modify any of the holes.
You didn't have to plug the hose and re-drill them.
Which would have been really hard to do because it looked like somebody just kind of stuck their pocket knife in them and twisted.
Well, yeah,
them.
you can see a little chip in the overlay here where they weren't too careful with it. But there's a lot of guitar left there
Yeah.
and a world of history.
So I took it home. I brought it home, and I messed with it off and on for a couple of years and never really got it back together. And so finally, when I was working with Carl McIntyre in town, I put it on the workbench and realized just how Doc was pretty close to right.
Yeah.
But I managed to get it where, and it's been stable like where it is. I mean, it could use some tweaking, but it's been stable where it is for 25 years. So I'm not going to mess with it much. So anyway, he gave me this thing, and I went to, I got it back together and decided I was going to play it on a Doc Watson record. I thought it'd be cool for this guitar to be on a Doc Watson record again, only this time with me playing it. And so I take it to the studio. We did 2 records in 5 days.
That's old school.
We did 2 records in 5 days with all overdubs and a rough mix for 2 records. This would have been, I guess, it would have been the winter in 1990. It would have been December of 1990. And so I go in the studio and I'm getting set up and ready to do it. And I see Doc is sitting over, waiting for somebody to bring in a guitar and, get his microphone and stuff set up. So I didn't say a word. I just took this guitar and set it over into his lap. And as soon as he grabbed the neck, he knew the guitar. And he started playing on it. And I could see the wheels turning. And he's going on and on and on, going on and on and on about, oh, this guitar was such an old friend to me, and you really brought it back. The tone, it's got the tone I always remembered. This old guitar was such a good friend, And he's been telling me for years he's going to give it to me, Anyway, I could see the wheels turning, and he's saying, "Oh, this is just great," and I could tell he didn't want to give it back to me. He didn't want to. He just wanted to hang on to it and play it, And so I just leaned over and whispered in his ears, "Yeah, well, maybe one of these days I'll give it to you."
Whoa, that's a great way to end. Wow. And it has a name now.
Arthel. I call
named
my last.
Named
after Doc. Arthel Lane Watson.
That's right.
And so some of the stuff I left intact, like this weird strap button.
Yep. Into the neck block.
But not only that, it's the strangest looking button I've seen.
I've not seen another one.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely old school. And there are other little things about it that I didn't notice when I first got it. He told me the story of.
Oh yeah, there's a patch.
There's a big patch right here, and I didn't see that for the first 2 weeks I had it.
So hold it up to the camera. I don't know if they'll be able to see it, but show them where it is. So when you see this guitar laying by the road, you can say that's Jack's guitar.
Yeah, but there's this big square patch in it right here.
Yeah.
It's
a good match.
The color match is incredible.
It is.
He got this happened when the guitar, Doc and the guitar were on their way to England.
American Airlines?
I don't know which airline. But he was to take this guitar, that's the way the story goes, he was to take this guitar from there to Africa, the State Department trip, they said. Right. So this guitar was supposed to be in Africa, but wasn't. I assumed that he borrowed a guitar. He told me, but I don't remember who from or what kind of guitar, but he left this with a repair guy in London who did that patch while they were on the tour, and he picked it up on his way home. Going home.
Incredible.
So, of course, I mean, there are cracks and gouges and all kinds of stuff, but I've got pictures of Doc with this guitar, and it's on several record covers like Home Again. There's a new CD of Doc relatively new, the last 5-6 years, from Gertie's Folk City, live from Gertie's Folk City, and this is the guitar on the picture that he's holding.
It's on
like this.
It's on the cover of one of your projects too.
It's on the cover of Arthel's guitar.
Yep.
It sure is.
Well, that's such a piece of history for those of us who spent our youth, as Jack said earlier, picking up that needle and putting it back, going, how in the world does that happen? Jack figured it out. Not many of us did.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just it's cool to me to be able to, you know, sit down in my house and know that I've got the guitar that I've listened to for so many hours. You know, Doc playing. I learned how to play guitar listening to Doc play this one
Yeah.
on some of my favorite records.
A lot of people out there listen to the same guitar. Fortunately, you wound up with it. And that's the story of Doc's guitar. My great friend Jack Lawrence. Thanks for joining your old buddy Michael Reno Harrell here with Mostly Acoustic, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Jack.
You bet.
Thank you.